This video is sponsored by SquareSpace. Once you've got permission to buy a new road bike this year, one of the big choices to make is what group set to go on that bike. And what you go for depends on different factors like price and personal preference. But all that said, I reckon one of the most popular group sets in 2023 will be this, the brand new Shimano Ultegra 12-speed. But is it any good? How does it compare to Dual Race and 105 Di2 and also SRAM Force eTap AXS? Well, today we will find out, because after 6 months of riding the group set through all sorts of weather conditions on this lovely Carnago C68, I'll share my real world, in-depth thoughts on the group set, the pros and cons and what it's like to live with. And also a mention of these new wheels that go with the group set as well. A little fun fact before we dive into the meat of this review. Did you know the name Ultegra comes from the merging of two words, ultimate and integrate, and that the first Ultegra group set launched some 35 years ago with a 7-speed group set? Well, now you do. But for 2023, we have a 12-speed group set with a semi-wireless update and lots of other changes. What this group set isn't is a groundbreaking step forward from the previous group set, but there are lots and lots of small changes that add up to quite a substantial improvement over that old 11-speed group set. It's a case of refining rather than a massive revolution here, but that is the Shimano way. It really is the pinnacle of shifting, braking and ergonomic performance. And unless you've got money to burn or you are a weight weenie, I can't see the point of going to a Dual Race. And personally, I prefer the grey looks of this group set over the gloss black of Dual Race. And it's probably worth the money for the weight savings and other small improvements over 105 Di2, which hasn't been that well received, it has to be said. And we'll find out how it compares to SRAM Force eTap AXS later in the video. And why no Campag comparison? Well, simply because the Italian company doesn't offer a mid-range, mid-tier electronic group set to rival Ultegra or Force, only that super record EPS offering. Let's start with the positives then, and frankly, this group set has been easy and a joy to live with over the past 6 months. It really is as good as group sets get. The shifting is amazingly fast, quick, the brakes are powerful and quiet in the dry and wet, and I've had no maintenance issues at all. Everything has to have been hunky-dory, just fabulous. So let's talk about the things I really like on the group set, starting with the best and working my way down the list. The first is the ergonomics, the new hoods. They're a bit longer and a bit taller and angled over, but they're really smooth and they feel amazing in the hands. And hand on heart, I think these are the best ergonomics, the best hoods available in any group set available right now. And considering how much time most of us spend in the hoods these days compared to 20 or 30 years ago, that is a good thing. And then when you touch the gear levers, the shifting is noticeably quicker front and rear. But the biggest improvement that you can really feel tangibly is at the front. That front mech performance is amazing, lightning quick up and down between the big and small ring. At any speed, any power, any situation, nothing phases it at all. Just solid, reliable performance. And I've not had a single drop chain in that 6 months of testing either. The rear shifting is also quicker as well, which is just as well with the extra sprocket for the chain to work up and down. And it's super quiet when changing gear. So quiet, in fact, that sometimes you change gear and you don't hear any noise at all. Now, the fact the group set is 12 speed is neither here nor there, but there are a few useful refinements in the move to 12 speed from 11 speed. It's definitely not a case of running out and upgrading to 12 speed from 11 speed because it's better or make you go faster, but there are some nice things to talk about. The first on this 1130 cassette is the addition of a 16-tooth sprocket, which I know some people will go crazy mad for that sweet spot of cadence at certain speeds. And it gives that nice smooth progression up and down the cassette, so less jumpy than before. We also now have an 1134 up from 1132 on the old group set, so great for people who need the help and assistance on the hills or on that bigger range cassette. We also then have a single rear mech to cover the two cassettes, so no long and short cage like we had before. And happily, that cassette fits on a regular Shimano HG spline free hub body as well. So you've got some old wheels with a Shimano free hub, this cassette will work just fine on those, and no need to buy a new free hub body or set of wheels. And when you pull the brake levers and activate the hydraulic disc brakes, well, they're powerful, good modulation, and they're quiet in the rain and the dry. There are two changes over the old Groupset which you might notice depending on how fussy or in tune with the bike you are. So we now have servo wave, which is brought over from the mountain bikes, and GRX, which is a non-linear brake lever action. And where you really notice it is in the hoods, with easier activation of the brakes and a better feel in the brake lever really. And then we have more pad clearance around the disc brake rotor. And where on the old Groupset you might get a bit of tinkling when the brakes heat up, or you ride through puddles and get a bit of grit down there, that doesn't happen nearly as much on the Groupset. And I'm happy to report no rubbing, whereas sprinting, riding through the rain, grit, mud, or when they're heating up on a long descent. Before we talk about a comparison with SRAM's Groupset, I need to tell you about today's sponsor, SquareSpace. Whether you run your own bike shop and need a website to support sales, a cool bike brand selling cool bike products, or you just want to start blogging on the bike world in 2023, getting a professional looking website with SquareSpace is easy. It's an all-in-one platform with an intuitive layout, powerful analytic tools, round-the-clock support, and loads of templates to choose from. And right now, you get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase using my special code and link down below in the description. Okay, let's carry on. The comparison with SRAM is an interesting one and raises both objective and subjective differences between the two Groupsets. Personally, I prefer the shifting layout of SRAM and find it much more intuitive than Di2, with less chance of pressing the wrong button and getting the wrong gear change when you need it the most. But the shape of the new Ultegra hoods is far superior to anything currently offered by SRAM, and SRAM definitely has work to do here to make a smoother and smaller hood shape that are way more ergonomic than the current offering. Where SRAM does draw back some points is on the fact you can remove the batteries, which is clearly good, but by far the biggest appeal of SRAM over Shimano is a much wider range of gearing ratios available, with both big gears for pro riders and racers available, and also smaller chain sets and bigger range cassettes for us mere mortals to help us get up the hills in a Gran Fondo, Sportive, or just a hilly local ride. Shimano is still clearly too focused on the needs of racing cyclists, while SRAM has an eye on what non-racing cyclists really need and want in the real world. In terms of bad, well, honestly, I've not had any bad stuff happen during my 6 months of riding a Groupset. It's been reliable, it's been quiet, just been fuss-free. I've not had the noisy fifth sprocket issue that some people have reported. It's been quiet in every single gear, in every single situation. So the battery being inside the frame is great in terms of runtime, that bigger battery, but you can't remove the battery to charge it indoors. You have to charge a bike near a power source, a bit of a downside. And the other downside is there are now 2 coin cell batteries in the shifters. They do last a claimed 2 years, but another thing to worry about in the long term and more complexity for sure. There's only 2 cassette options, 1130, 1134, no 1128 or 1125 anymore. But I think 1130, 1134, probably enough for most people. 1130 has been good for me with a 52-36 chainset up front. As you can see, I've had no issues with the cranks failing, which was quite an issue with the previous generation Ultegra, but so far doesn't seem to be an issue with the new generation, so hopefully it's a problem they have solved. And I have ridden a Groupset and a bike through all sorts of weather, and so far, as you can see, no issues at all. So reliability and durability has been excellent so far in the first 6 months of riding a Groupset. Along with the Groupset, Shimano also launched some brand new Ultegra carbon fibre wheels, and they have been very impressive during the 6 months of riding. Now, Shimano wheels are fairly common in the pro peloton, but not so common here in the real world. They used to be about 5 or 10 years ago, but in more recent years, they seem to have fallen out of favour. I'm not really sure why, but hopefully these new wheels will put them back in the spotlight, and there is lots to like. So these are a C36, a shallower option. There's a C50 and a C60. I chose these for the looks and at a slightly lower weight. So the weight is about 1500 grams, not as light as Dura-Race or other wheels in the sort of price range, with these costing just under £1,300 here in the UK. And there are some details on these wheels in typically Shimano conservative fashion that make them a good pick for many people. Firstly, we have really good hubs with cup and cone bearings, and they spin smoothly. Reliability has been fantastic, and a free hub engages as quick as you need. And then the rims, carbon fibre, nice and wide, so 21 internally, good for a 28mm wide tyre here. Give that nice tyre shape you want for maximum traction and grip and control. But then, if you're not a fan of hookless rims, which are becoming very popular, these are hooked. So that means you can use any tyre, with or without an inner tube. And if you're on the fence about tubeless, you want to try it, but you're not sure about hookless, and the limitations on tyre compatibility right now, these are a good pick. The rims also come pre-taped with valves installed, and installing these tyres was easy. Just a normal track pump, no special tricks needed. It's as good, as easy as tubeless should be. We then have aero blade spokes for a bit more aero, external nipples for easy maintenance, and straight pull spokes in the front, and a 2-to-1 lacing pattern in the rear. And that all adds up to great performance out on the open road. And a real benefit of the shallow rim design is great crosswind stability, the real Achilles heel of a deeper section rim. And where I live, it's often very windy and blustery, and the stability and calmness of these wheels is fantastic. So very easy to live with in a range of conditions. Yes, it's not as aero or as fast as a deeper section wheel, but it still feels very quick. They feel great on rough roads as well, with a nice level of compliance through the 28mm wide tyres, and good lateral stiffness when you're sprinting out of the saddle or climbing some very steep gradients. And like the Groupset, they've just been fuss free during my 6 months of riding them, and while not as exciting as other wheel brands for sure, they go about their business with no obvious downsides. So there we are then. Hopefully this video has been useful if you are buying a new bike this year and you're wondering if the new Ultegra 12-speed is a Groupset for you. And if you have any further questions, feel free to put them down below in the comment section. And if you want to see a review of Dura-Ace and how it compares and whether it's worth spending the extra money, then watch the video right here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more regular content like this by hitting the button right here. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Hopefully when it's a bit warmer, because it's freaking freezing out here.